got like a spectacular next guest. We know him well. He's been on our advisory board.
We have watched him
grow and mold and mature into one of our, I don't want to say student. That just wouldn't be right. I mean, he's just too seasoned of a business guy to call him our student. What would we call him?
But when do you quit learning?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we like about you.
You know, you took part of my intro away from me. Well, anyway, we're talking to Brian Tarle here.
Is that a surprise or new?
No. But
Okay.
even our guest took it away from me because he talked about learning. But Brian's owner of International Kitchen and Bath in Davidson, North Carolina. And it was going to be part of my introduction because we've known each other for a long time. And you have been in business for over 20 years now.
Yes, actually pushed 26, 27.
So over 25 years. That's kind of what I was thinking.
That's not what you said. You said 20. You shortchanged the man 6 years.
It was over 20 years.
Okay.
But it's also over 25.
Stop with the bell, rookie.
But
Come on, man. We need a new operator.
But the point is, and you've heard me say this before, I think the successful business owners are the ones that always keep learning. And that's what I observed about Brian is he's always trying to learn new things and get involved in things and recognizes, as we all need to, that we don't know everything. And we can't possibly know everything, and we can get help where we need it. So that's how I attribute your success, Brian. And you had to fight through some pretty rough times, I remember, with the economy and all that.
Well, I think we've all been there the last 5-6 years. But like somebody did say, you better learn from other people's mistakes too, because you can't possibly live long enough to make them all yourself. So
yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't heard that one before.
But I'm glad. You should be glad I hung around here. I mean, that first act was pretty tough to follow. I kept looking at my watch. I thought, but do I have time to get up to Patterson and check out this Amish furniture? But I stuck around.
Yeah, and he's a cabinet maker too, and I know a lot of the work you do is cabinets. Which reminds me, make sure people understand what it is your business does, because you do some great work and have won a lot of awards too that I want you to talk about.
Well, we do interior remodeling, basically, kitchens and bathrooms almost exclusively. So we are general contractors, licensed plumbers, but we really don't hire out for that. We want to focus on kitchens and bathrooms, and that's where our focus is. So our specialty is pretty much taking the pain out of the remodeling as much as possible.
You know, Brian, we just talked to a guy who essentially was somewhat in your industry and found himself needing to move in a different direction. And although I admire Jason for what he has done, what he has proven is your industry is not easy. You know, for you to make the statement of over 20-something years is remarkable. And I want people listening to realize that. And that's because you're only as good as your last job. I mean, you got to keep reinventing yourself every single client, time in and time out. Talk about how you do that, because I cannot stress how challenging that is.
Well, it's a very personal situation for us. I mean, we do love to build things. We like to see new things created. That's our background. That's where we come from. And when you really enjoy what you're doing and you want to build something different, something nice, you're working with that homeowner to build their dream also. And it gets very personal to them. We like to see it one at a time. There's no cookie cutters in the remodel business. Everything's individual, and that's the fun part of it. I mean, yes, you have to reinvent yourself, but that's the fun part. I mean, everything's new all the time.
And I know it's obvious, but the design work is difficult, and that's where the creativity comes in, right?
Well, that's the fun part.
You've got to build designs.
Yep, that's the fun part, being creative. I mean, and I would be upfront and say, and Jason would tell you too, that a cabinet is a cabinet is a cabinet. There's a lot of people that can get you a cabinet, but it's the people that make a business. Just like your last guest, Jason, I mean, is taking care of his clientele is what's important. It's not just the chair, just the furniture, but it's the whole process. And people are far more important than a product.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because Wayne and I know you so well. There's some things about you that we know, and I don't want people listening.
You're not going to say on air, though.
I won't if you don't. But let's talk about one of the things that I just absolutely adore about you personally, and that is you have this real skill at defining and clarifying the expectation of your client and making sure you meet that. And all that sounds real sexy and cool, but it is very hard to do. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know you and I have had these conversations before, but it is such a difficult thing to do. Talk about the expectation of the client, because I want small business people listening to hear how you do that.
Well, I think to begin with, as Wayne would tell you, and I do a lot of. I ask Wayne for a lot of help too. So I'm going to push Wayne's moniker here a little bit too. But it's knowing your business, knowing your clientele. I mean, from the get-go, knowing what the problems are, what the situations are, and being right up front and communicating. That's the big word. So we know that our clientele need, but they also do not want problems. I mean, remodeling has a reputation. I mean, we're in a certain position in the market that, some people look and they say, do I really want to do this? It's just going to be a nightmare. Well, that's part of our job, to make it as a very, very small nightmare as much as we can. And if you know what your customer's expecting and make sure it comes out.
Well, I always hate to admit that Joe's right, but there is a lesson in the way you do this, because mapping out expectations and meeting them and making sure the client is right with you, particularly on something as creative as redoing a kitchen or bath, is remarkable, and I think that probably is the reason for your long-term success. So you've done a great job of that, and everyone can.
I got a good friend of mine who's an ERISA attorney, really sharp guy, and whenever we're together, I always pick on him like I pick on Wayne and say, man, all you do is just worry and think about everything. It just bugs me. And he looks over at me and he says, well, somebody's got to think for us. So you remind me of that, Brian. That is, I just can't say, I want a new kitchen. Put a sink right here and then give me a counter over here. It really does take and require a lot of thought process and experience, which is what you bring when you sit down with that client.
Well, I think it's just like going to Google, the internet, whatever. It's an educational system we're in now. Everyone needs the information. There's too much of it out there. So if you can run into somebody and find a business that will help you through the process, not just try and get you to buy something, we're there, number one, to do the project right, to make sure you're happy 15 years from now, not when the check clears and we're on down the road. I mean, we're a long-term business, been in Davidson all these years, and people know where we live. So
you've got a great showroom too, right? I mean, you might want to describe what they'll see when they walk in the door.
We are in a location most people don't know the name of. It's actually called Sadler Square, which is right before you get to Davidson College.
I didn't even know the name of it, but I know where it is.
Yep, and it's where they put the new movie theater. I'll give them a little bit of a plug. I mean, they've done a great job getting people in there. The healthy food market is in there, and so
it's a retail location.
Correct. Yep, we have about 2,000 square foot showroom. And we can pretty much cover everything someone would need for kitchen and bath remodeling.
Well, that's important to me anyway, because I can't tell if I want something until I see it. So it really helps to be able to see some of it live.
That's a big help, yes.
Absolutely.
Brian, give the contact information again.
Okay, well, our physical address, if you wanted to type that into your GPS, would be 201 Griffith Street. That's F-F-I-T-H. Griffith Street in Davidson. It's the main road right off of exit 30. And you just head towards the college, you'll see us on the right.
I tell my son often that details matter. And you just sort of define that for me. When I think of that statement, and I'm trying to teach my son how to make sure that he's being detailed on things, you come to my mind because I've talked to you about how you have this detailed checklist that you'll go through with your clients, asking them things about their lifestyle and what it is they want to do in the kitchen and how they want to do it, and that helps you form this design that sometimes they don't even know that they want. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. That's one of the things we really push hard, and that's the design process. Because, like I said, you can buy cabinets anywhere, but you need the ideas. When we do a design for someone, which by the way is a money-back guarantee. I mean, anyone who can find anyone that has a better idea than us. I mean, you don't have to pay us for any of our work. So we try and guarantee that. And
Wayne has taught you well with that statement. I like that a lot.
Guarantees.
Wayne got me
Sells well.
thinking that direction. But anyway, so we will do 2, 3, 4 plans of the same space and give people options because there's no such thing as the perfect design. It's only a perfect design for the way you are going to live in it. So we try and help you work through all that process and come up with the best design for how you want to use it. So,
and kitchens and bathrooms are so personal. So
they are.
And you can't. It's tough to get in someone's head,
and
to figure it out. But
and your folks are basically inviting us to move in and live with them for 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So it's a real process that you better like each other. I mean, you better do your homework. So
Okay.
and we try to help people with
Right.
you've been at this for 25, 26 years now. If I ask you, what's the one job that you had that you're proudest of, or was the most interesting, or does anything come to mind?
Oh, wow.
Or
After 20-something years, you
Jeez.
want him to come up with one?
Yeah, sure.
All
Usually
right,
everyone's got one.
All right.
it. Well,
Except I might have stumped him.
yeah,
How about
we have so many.
your worst nightmare? You want to flip it that way?
No, we don't really have too many of those. I mean, we did, back in the day, I guess that would have been mid to end of the 90s. I mean, we did do some international work, and we did work projects in Acapulco.
Oh, seriously?
And those projects were just super. I mean, they were very creative, very educational in a lot of ways. But we have so many great projects around the lake, too. It's hard to come up with anything in particular. But the people and the clientele we've had, we've been very lucky. And we count our lucky stars in that regard.
Well, you're good at
Acapulco,
what you
that's
do.
amazing.
Yeah.
That had to be different.
Brian Tarle, International Kitchen and Bath, home of the money-back guarantee design. How's that? You like that?
Oh, you're great, Joe. What can I say?
What? You didn't? That didn't tickle you? I was trying to give Brian some props
It's not
there.
a question of tickling me. Is that your new buzz phrase there, Brian? Joe always feels he has to come up with the buzz lines, but and he's pretty good at it.
Let Brian, you've only got about 20, 30 seconds or so, but talk to the person that's thinking about doing this. What is it you want to say to them, the person that's thinking about calling you?
Number one, don't believe everything you see on HGTV.